Hi. It has been some time since we've chatted. And that's just really what I want to do today is chat and do a bit of an update because a lot has happened and I want to talk about it. I am 30 now. 30, yes. That's a big thing for me, actually. It's something that I always looked at as very, very crazy. Like 30, I cannot imagine what it will feel like to be 30. I could not picture it, didn't see it. But here we are. A lot has happened in the past year, I would say. I feel like I not only turned 30, but I also, in a sense, started over again, which isn't something I really expected, I guess, but I do think it was something that had to happen. So here we are. I have had a year, and I think a lot of people have had a year. I've had friends in this past year and just people in my life who have gone from being what I would see as like a positive, relatively happy person to being just like, I don't care anymore. Everything is a mess, which has been so honestly odd to experience, but I think everyone's just really going through it, and the times are really challenging everyone. But for me specifically, this year has been a lot of self-growth, change, and deep, deep, deep reflection. Emphasis on deep. I don't think I've ever had to sit down with myself and really get to the bottom of myself before quite like this, which was at the start very daunting. And I'm nowhere near finished, but it's become much more manageable and I would say exciting, if that's the right word to use. But it's been something that was and continues to be a process, but a process I finally think I've accepted and am happy to be a part of. So earlier this year, I got out of a very, very long-term relationship for me. I moved out, I moved into my own place that we're looking at right now, and that was a big task for me. I don't think I struggle with change as much as I struggle with being in new environments and figuring out who I am. And I guess that's still change, but I actually do enjoy change. I think change is good. I love moving to new places. I love trying new things because it makes me very, very excited. However, the work within yourself that comes with change is something I do not enjoy, or at least I did not enjoy. And it was very intimidating to me and just something I've realized now I avoided so much. And I really feel like I, at some point, just stopped growing. Internally, I stopped growing. And that is something, when you discover about yourself, is very, very scary. So when I moved to this new place, I decided to move somewhere that was a bit farther than where I normally would live in Tampa and would force me to have new routines and new surroundings, everything like that, because I just convinced myself like that was what I needed. And I in no means regret it. And I also I just don't like the word regret. I don't think there's anything I've truly deeply regretted. Because I think things happen in order to grow, in order to move on. And I think you get to a point in anything in life where you're like, this is not serving me anymore because I am not changing and I can't change in this environment. And it pushes you to the next step, I guess. And for me, I had definitely gotten there. I was not changing. And in fact, I was making myself worse, which I can see now, but at the time I could not see. I was never going to admit that. I was never going to see that because I was so caught up in my own brain. I was so deeply I feel like someone put a helmet on my brain and there was just no change. There was nothing that could be done. She was just the way she is. And it really started to weigh on me. And I really became a person I didn't recognize anymore. And so I moved out here. I wanted to get change and all of these things. And I feel like it was going okay for a little bit, but I really was not doing any deep work on myself. It was more just you are in a new space. It's new things. And there were a lot of things within this place that I moved that did not work for me. And I was kind of just ignoring it and kind of just being like, just get over yourself. It's fine. Like, stop worrying about it. Move on. Like, because I felt like that's the energy people were giving me when I was really upset or being really having a negative mind space or anything like that. It would just be like, if you're sad, well, don't be sad. Or if you're frustrated, you shouldn't be frustrated. You should be grateful. And so I found like I just kept doing that to myself. I was like, you should be grateful and you shouldn't be sad. And you're in a new place and people would kill to have this. And I think, yes, it's important to reflect on, like be grateful and whatever, but that was not working for me. Once I really just said that to myself and accepted that, I was like, yeah, this place isn't for me. This isn't for me. And not that I made a mistake, because again, I don't think I made a mistake in moving here, because I don't know if I didn't move here, I would have figured this out. But I think there's something about just being honest and saying, you know what? I am grateful for this stuff, and I'm grateful that I had a place to move into and it's, you know, safe and I made it happen, but it's just not for me. And as annoying almost as that decision was for me, I also was really proud. And I feel like that was the first real big step I took to being like, let's just listen to ourselves. Like, let's just go with it. You know what I mean? Because for so many years now, I've been like hearing things in myself and either just like convincing myself that's not true, or my outward like person that I am being to other people is like not at all that person that I'm internally. And that's like very frustrating and weird and confusing, because how is that possible? How am I not the me that I am? This feels like it's getting way too deep. Hold on. I'm getting sidetracked. The point is I moved into this apartment. It was okay for a time, but there became so many issues with living here that really got to me. I felt really, really isolated because I'm far from a lot of things that are part of my routine. And I tried to get new routines here. I tried to do all these things, but I just really struggled. And I am really having a hard time doing that. So normally past me would have just been like, well, you have to just be grateful. Like, suck it up, right? And that's where I would leave it. I would do no more reflection on it. I'd be like, you picked it, so deal with it. And I kept saying that to myself for a while, and then I was like, that doesn't work. It's not working for me. So I was like, okay, I'm unhappy living here. What can I do about it? And there's a lot of issues with living here that are because of like the building, because of the management and things outside of my control that I try to fix and like work with, but there's constantly something new here that's very frustrating. So I went to the management to be like, hey, I'm having these issues, blah, 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 blah. And they were kind of like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, not helpful, not responsive, nothing. So then I'm like, okay, time to make a decision for me. Am I going to stay here and try to make the best of it and just go on, knowing that I'm unhappy, knowing that it has been getting worse the longer I've lived here? Or do we move? Do we bite the bullet, break the lease, pay the money, and move? And that was very hard for me because I feel like in my relationship in the past, I would have those feelings, but I also had someone else who would have to agree with that or would have a say in that, you know? And we definitely have very different opinions on spending money or like, you know, doing things like that, where I know that those things were not going to get sorted. It would kind of just end up being deal with it. And that's okay. But for me, I'm like, I am my own person now. I don't report to anyone. I pay my own bills. I do my own thing. So I really sat with it. And I'm like, do I do that and give myself a better option of growing and moving on? Or do I continue to sit here and overanalyze every single aspect and come home and be miserable and not feel comfortable in my own space and all these things? And it was a very rogue decision for me, but I decided like, let's invest in myself. And I know a lot of people look at it and be silly. I've had friends in my life be like, this is dramatic and you're spending a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I'm really content in being like, this is my choice. Like, maybe it's not the best choice. Maybe I'll regret it in the future, or I'll be like, dang, I really should have just stuck it out, whatever. But I feel like it's my lesson to learn, and I've just like made peace with that. And that's an overall thing that I'm trying to bring into my new year, and like my outlook is just to go with it. Like, things happen. And I think I've spent so many years just trying to control things and feeling so frustrated that I can't control things. When in reality, it's just like, let it happen. Like, this is the way I'm feeling right now. This feels like the right decision. I really don't have any doubts about it. But let's say in 6 months, I'm like, dang, I spent a lot of money to do this and I'm not actually feeling better here or whatever. Then that's what it is. Like, that is what it is. And why overanalyze it? And why think so deeply about it when it feels like the right thing? And it feels like the right decision for me. And I know people won't agree with it, but I just feel like it makes sense. So I have started the process of packing. I moved in here in June, and it is now the very end of December. And I'll be moving in like 2-3 weeks. And I was initially just so overwhelmed by having to pack my apartment up again because I finally feel like I've unpacked. But the way I look at it is like I'm gonna be here for another year, right? Like I am working for another year in this city. And if I think about a year here in this apartment, it seems dreadful. Like it seems like it will be the longest year of my life. And when I look at a year in this other place, I'm like, oh my God, that seems so fast. Like, I hope I have enough time to like decorate and feel homey and do all the things I want to do over there. And so for me, it just feels like, yeah, that has to be the right decision, at least for me now, because I want to be excited. And I think I've spent so many years now feeling so negative and feeling so down about a lot of things when it comes to where I lived and my job and the people I'm around and the things I'm doing, that now I've come to this realization where it's like, okay, you can feel those things. Those things are valid, but can we do something about them? Whereas before I would just feel those and be upset and angry, and it would just make me more upset and angry. And I wouldn't do anything about it, which seems so simple, right? It's like, obviously, do something. But I wasn't doing anything. I would be upset with where I lived, but just be upset with where I lived. Or I would be upset with the person I was dating, but I would just be upset and like resent them. I wouldn't actually talk to them about it. I wouldn't actually voice my actual concerns. I would just get angry or frustrated, but not do anything to actually get to the root of the problem. And I have realized there are things out of my control, right? Like there are things that bother me that I really can't deeply change. But instead of just sitting with that and being like really annoyed by it, I'm like, okay, so then let it go. If it's not something I can change, why am I worrying about it? Why am I like over analyzing every aspect of it? Because my brain works hard. It works hard to think about every situation, every anything. It will think itself into a hole. And why am I letting it do that? Same as packing. I was like so overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, I have to pack my whole apartment. I have to do all of this. And I just thought for days, like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. This is overwhelming. I don't know if I can do it. And it's like, okay. At some point I had to say, so what should we do about it? Should we not move? Because we don't want to pack? And that didn't feel good. And I was like, okay, well, do we just have the movers come and pack everything and move? And that didn't really feel good because that sounds very expensive. So then I was like, okay, well, we have time. What if we just start packing bit by bit, or at least like declutter things or go through things you don't need and really purge out stuff, and maybe order some things that will make packing easier. And believe it or not, that actually did help take away some of the stress. I'm not here to say like everything is perfect, just let life do its thing and whatever, because I know that there are times, especially recently, I've been down bad. I've been, honestly, I feel like at some of the lowest points in my life in the past couple of months. And I wouldn't ever want to go back and feel those things again, because truly some things I felt recently have been like unimaginable to me. I think of like the pain that I truly felt over the past couple of months, and it's just like, I can't even describe it. It's nothing I would wish for another person to feel, and it's nothing I want to feel again, to be honest. But it did push me, because it was like, okay, we are feeling as bad as we could probably feel. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to feel this way? Or are we going to change something and try, at least give it one try to make things better? And I think that really pushed me. And I had no choice but to like make a change. And I was like, something big is I need to work on myself. I've had these bad habits and I've had these ways of living where I just was like, whatever, it's okay. A very like surface level, let's not get too deep, because if we go too deep, we're going to really stir some shit up and I don't want to do that. But how am I going to get better if I don't do that, you know? So we've done some deep digging. I actually had been, since the beginning of the year, really getting into, but like now taking it seriously, getting into journaling. And it's so funny because people have recommended journaling forever to me, right? Like I see it in so many videos, I see it with my friends, like journaling really helps, journaling is great, journaling is whatever. And it's so interesting because I always was like, yeah, like I'll do it. Or I like tried and like gave up, never really stuck to it. And this time around, I was like, I need to commit to this. Like, if I'm serious about wanting to make my life better and make myself a better person, like, let's commit to this. And it's just so funny because it's like, it's there the whole time, but until you really need something, until you're like really willing to change something about yourself or change the way you live your life, you maybe won't take it that seriously. And it's just interesting how it took me to really hit rock bottom to be like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, it was just me looking at me being like, okay, girl, what's the plan? So yeah, it was really interesting. But journaling, oh my God. I'm someone who's in my head all the time. So being able to just write it out on paper, write out how I'm feeling, write out what I'm thinking, what my goals are, whatever it is not only really helpful to just like brain dump, but also to go back and read. Like, I really went back and looked through my journal from like June and seen where I was at and seen the progress or lack of progress I was making over the past couple of months. And it's been just really helpful to see, like, these are things we were thinking then. And even now, like what I'm writing in my journal now, I'm sure in a couple of months I'll be like, okay, we've grown past this, or we've changed something, or like, something has been different. So it's really important to me to not only get my thoughts out because there's so many of them, but also to be able to reflect on those thoughts. Same as I miss making videos because I miss being able to reflect on my old videos and look and see who I was at what points in my life and the things I liked and the people I was around, and just see my growth over the years. And so all this is to say that change is definitely scary, and it's definitely something you have to want. Change is going to happen regardless. Like, if you're on board or not, it doesn't matter. Things are going to change in your life. I think it's important to acknowledge it and not be like, no, nothing's changing, I'm fine, everything's fine, because that's how I lived a lot of my life, and that didn't really work out for me. So we're changing, we're doing things, and we're gonna hope for the best, because that's literally all I can do at this point. And I hope that I can get even better at these things that I've implemented in my life, like just letting go, letting things be, and just like not having control over everything, or not feeling like I need control over everything or everyone. If somebody wants to be there in your life, they will be there. And if things are for you, they'll be for you. And I spent a lot of time fighting the places I'm at and fighting the people I'm with and fighting internally, because I've found that internally I will believe something or feel something, and by the time it makes its way out to being who I am, it's been distorted. It's not me anymore. So I'm really trying to like be honest in my feelings and who I want to be and make those changes. Because I feel like for so long I look at other people and I'm like, oh, that girl's so fit, I wish I looked like that. Or like, their life is so fun, I wish I did that. Or that trip looks so fun, I wish I could go there. And then my thoughts would stop at that, which is so weird to think about, but that's where I'd leave it off. I'd be like, well, must be nice to have such a good workout routine, And it's like, okay, well, are you serious about that? Because if you are, then we can easily do something to move in that direction. Like, if you think having a workout routine and like being physically strong and stuff is important, then let's work out. Let's find a workout class. Let's do anything. And that's just funny to me because it's so obvious and so easy. And yet I was like, they're just so lucky. They're so lucky that they get to do that. And they're so lucky they get to travel places. What? That doesn't even make any sense. Anyway, packing up this apartment is interesting. And it's interesting that I've made this choice because it's not something I would have normally ever made or let myself consider. And I'm hopeful for the best. I think I'm making the best decision for myself right now based on everything I know, everything I actually am feeling, and we will see. I have this one friend who, it's very scary because we have a very very similar brain. Like, we all the time will say it's so weird. Like, we'll always be like, get out of my brain, because we think so alike and we do a lot of the same things that it's freaky, it's weird. And so when I was considering all this, my brain was kind of running on adrenaline. It was confused. I had a lot of other things going on in my life. I was like stressing myself out. And I remember I called her and I was like, can I please use our brain? Because I know that hers is calm. Hers is not dealing with this decision. She has nothing to lose on it. But I know it's a very similar brain to me. And I explained everything to her and explained how I was feeling. She literally was just like, yes, you answered your own question. Like, that's what you want. And she explained something, because I had said, like, ugh, if I move and then it ends up being just as bad, or like it's not what I thought it would be, or whatever the case is, then I wasted so much money and time and whatever. And I was like really caught up on that, because it felt so ungrateful to move and like spend money on myself, which is a whole nother thing. Because if like my sister had asked me for the amount of money it'll cost me to move back, I would have given it to her without even thinking about it, you know? But the fact that I was spending it on myself was just like an unusual thing, and just really hard for me to wrap my head around. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I deserve to spend that, you know, stuff like that, which is a whole nother thing. But she said to me, she was like, the way I look at those things is just there's a loser tax in life. And that was so funny to me, but it just like stuck with me. She was like, you know, sometimes we make decisions that are right at the moment, and then we find out this isn't what I want anymore, or this isn't good for me anymore, or whatever. And that applies to like anything you do. And she was like, sometimes that actually cost us money or time or whatever. And that's just the loser tax. That's just the tax for literally living. Would it be so nice to avoid paying for those things? Would it have been so nice for me to not pay to move all the way out here, pay to break my lease and move all the way somewhere else, and pay for that? Like, yes, it would be amazing to not pay for any of those things. But is it worth just staying where you are because it's not easy? Sometimes things cost money and time and effort, and that's just the tax you pay because you're doing things. So it was just very funny. And she was like, you know how much of a loser tax I've spent in my lifetime? And it was just really comforting to me. And it's just something I think about every time. Maybe loser is the wrong word, but that's how she describes it. But it's just like, it's a tax that you pay. And I do feel very fortunate that I can make that decision, that it's not just like, I'm so unhappy here and there's nothing I can do about it. So like, don't get me wrong. I am so grateful. I know that truly, like, these are trying times. So I do feel very, very grateful for that. But I do look at it as absolute worst case. We paid the loser tax and we'll have to make another decision from there. But for now, it feels right. So goodbye to this apartment that you never really saw. I don't think I'll miss it. I think there's like, it can feel cozy at times, but every time I feel a sense of being settled here, something happens where I'm like, oh my God, I can't feel comfortable. I can't feel like myself. I don't feel settled. I don't feel happy. I don't feel like I can get to things or feel like myself here. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right for me anymore. And I think it felt right at a time, but I feel like I've also changed drastically from when I got here to now. So I just got to adapt. I just got to move on and figure it out. But I just wanted to give this update because I've recorded this so many times. I did a whole vlog moving out of my old apartment, moving into here. I would like try to edit it. I like got decently far into it, but it just never felt right. It just never felt like something I wanted to put out. And maybe this is why, because I wasn't supposed to put it out. I don't know. Anyway, I'm starting over. I'm 30. It's scary sometimes, but I feel excited. And I feel really happy that I get to start over so many times and learn so much about myself now. And I'm excited to be a better version of myself. Like, I know that sounds so cheesy, and maybe all of this sounds cheesy, but I feel like I've neglected myself for years. And it seems silly because it's like, how? Like, you are yourself. How are you neglecting yourself, you know? But when you like step back and really go through the way you've been acting, the things you've been saying and thinking and reflecting deeply on those things, I'm like, whoa, I don't feel like that person. I don't want to be that person. So it's like, okay, well then, what should we do to make that different? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of person do I feel like I am? And that's where we're at. We're starting over. It's a little bit scary, but it's also a lot exciting. and I'm gonna take it day by day and see what happens. But I really want to get back into vlogging because I think it's fun and I love sharing my life, but I also find it so helpful for me to go back and be able to like look at a certain time and see the type of person I was, and all those things is so important to me. So if anything, this is for me. So I hope Future Seer, if you're watching this, you just continued on doing what's best for you and making your life the way you want it. Yeah, I hope you're happy. Thank you for checking in. I'm not sure exactly what type of posts I'll be doing, but I want to just get back into it, whether it's vlogging, whether it's my solo trips, or whatever can be in between that. I hope you come on this journey with me. And if you're on a similar journey, we got this. We have no choice but to figure it all out, because that's life. So, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to follow along on this journey. And I'll see you on another day with another video. Bye.